So you want to get paid to move to Taiwan and learn Mandarin? Then you clicked on the right video, because in this video I interview a recipient of the Huayu Scholarship, which grants recipients a $900 stipend every month. And that's basically enough to cover your tuition and living expenses if you live frugally. What's up guys, my name is Ray, aka the Freedive Nomad, and if this is the first time watching a video on my channel, just a quick intro about me. I teach freediving on the small island of Huayu, which is right behind me there, in the country of Taiwan. On my YouTube channel, I do videos about my life in Taiwan and the small island, as well as videos about freediving. And if that vibes with you, click the subscribe button below. And while you're at it, smash the like button so I can reach more people like you. And if you don't know anything about the country of Taiwan, it is the country just south of Japan in Asia, obviously. It also had the best response to COVID out of any country in the world. It was also voted in 2021 as the most livable city by expats. You can see that article below in the description. And also while you're at it, you can also read the blog article of 101 reasons why Taiwan is the best country to live in. Also watch the end of this video where Claire tells you the crazy story about leaving China at the beginning of the pandemic. And also, if you don't think you qualify for the Huayu Scholarship, I do offer a couple alternatives to come to Taiwan to study or work. And without further ado, here is the interview. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Claire. I'm originally from the Czech Republic, but I haven't really lived there for the past 10 years. I've been traveling around, learning languages. Now I'm here in Taiwan, learning Mandarin in Taipei on the Huayu Enrichment Scholarship. I speak 7 languages, so I'm currently working on my Mandarin, which is a bit of a challenge. Yeah, I love Taiwan. To be honest, I mainly came here for all the amazing things that you can do here, like all the diving and surfing and hiking, and there's just so much to do. And then I heard about the scholarships. I was like, well, I've always wanted to learn Mandarin, so there we go. It sounds like the perfect place to be. And I got the scholarship, and so here I am.
Yeah, I just heard about it recently, and I was just like, that is, if I knew about this when I was studying Mandarin, it's just like, it's a no-brainer.
Right. It's amazing. Yeah.
It's like you don't have to put any of your money up. It's just all done.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the Huayu Scholarship is.
It's a scholarship solely for the purpose of studying Mandarin. So they also do have a lot of scholarships for degree programs. But I personally didn't want to do another degree because I already feel like I have enough. And I don't want to put myself through that anymore. And then I found out that they have this scholarship solely for studying Mandarin. So you can study for 3 to 12 months, basically. The way it works, all the language schools throughout the country, and believe me, there are many, many, many in different towns and cities all over Taiwan. So they all have programs which last for 3 months every time. So you can apply for either 1 term or 2 or 3 or 4. So in one academic year starts in September. So you can either start in September or you can start later in the year. So they always go on and on throughout the year. So you can apply for as many terms as you'd like within 1 year. The thing is, you cannot renew the scholarship. So you can apply for a maximum of 12 months. Yeah.
So if you're on the fence from 3 months or 12 months, just apply for the 12 months because you always just leave early, right?
Right. You can. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you can never extend, but you could obviously leave earlier. Yeah. But so I have heard that it is more difficult to get a longer scholarship. I'm not quite sure. So this is only, people are guessing how it works or doesn't. So I had a friend from the UK, and I imagine competition is quite fierce in the UK because, there's a lot of people who want to go study Mandarin, a lot of people with amazing backgrounds. So he said he only applied for 3 months because he thought it would be the easiest to get. He was like, oh, I'm not even going to stand a chance if I apply for more. And then he was put on the wait list. And so he was only told like very last minute that the space opened up for him. As for me, I applied for 12 months because I didn't know. I was like, like if I can, because I didn't know if there were any quota or anything. And then I had an interview, and then after the interview they said they would publish the results, and then I got a random call from the person who had interviewed me from the representative office back in the Czech Republic, and he said, well, I haven't published the list yet. You could be on the list. I can only give you 9 months though. So he explained that the way it goes is that they have quota for a number of people, but they have a quota for a number of months that they can give out basically. So they have like a budget, right? And so they have a certain amount of months that they can give out in a given year. It doesn't matter if it's, like 10 or 20 people. I mean, I'm just making up numbers now, but the total sum of months that they give out. So he said he could offer me 9 months. He was like, do you want it or not? I was like, well, if this is a choice between 9 or nothing, like obviously I'll take the 9. So yeah, but I think it's definitely different for every country. So you would need to check with the respective office in your country. And so yeah, so this is the thing. You need to apply through the Taipei office in your country. And so yeah.
Or the TICO in your country.
Yeah, the TICO, yeah.
And I think, yeah, because for some reason, I will go automatically to the US page. And I think I saw that they're like, yeah, there's 12 spaces available in the Southwest US. So even I think if you're in a bigger country, that your each TICO office has their own quota, right?
Right. And maybe just for your viewers and listeners, I don't know if they necessarily know what TICO stands for.
Taiwan Economic Cultural Office.
Right. So it's basically like the embassy, right? But it's not officially an embassy, but like it's an office that is representing Taiwan in your country. And so that's a very good point to mention.
I think it's called, if it's in the capital city, then it's called TICRO. So you just add because like the Washington DC one in the US, it's called TICRO.
Interesting.
The R I think is representative. So it's like an embassy. The other places, the TICOs are the consulates, right?
Okay. Yeah. I usually just call it the embassy because I'm too lazy to think of the appropriate term, but
maybe it will be soon.
I don't want to get political. Afterwards, if you manage to get the scholarship, when you apply for your visas, again, bigger countries or just like some countries have more than one of the TICOs, and they will have different rules. So I was living in Switzerland before I came here, and I was trying to apply for my visa in Switzerland. I was in contact with 2 offices there and then with the one in the Czech Republic. And every single one of them was telling me completely different things. And they were like, oh, like maybe in that one it's different. So like they were like, oh, you live in this part of Switzerland, so I'm sorry, but like everything I just told you, I don't know if that's true, because you would need to apply through the one in Geneva and not here in Bern, and they might have different rules. And I'm like, you're in the same country, like you're representing the same country within the same country. Like, how do you have different rules? And they were like, sorry, like we just, So that's just something to keep in mind, that like whatever I say, like, maybe it's a bit different depending on where you're from. So always make sure to check on the official website or with the, get in touch by email or phone with the TICO in your region.
So you had to apply for the scholarship first and then your scholarship. And you have to actually be physically present in your country of origin or nationality to interview, right?
No, so it was done via Skype.
Okay.
Sorry, via WhatsApp.
Okay.
So it was also COVID time, right? So I guess everybody was just interviewed through WhatsApp. Yeah.
But
so it's very convenient. Yeah. They didn't even ask where I am, because it was just, hey, so we're going to send you the link and somebody's going to contact you on WhatsApp. So it's super convenient. Yeah. So that was in March last year. So that's another very important thing. You need to really plan in advance if you want to come to Taiwan. So the scholarships, like I said, you can come anytime for 1 term, 2 or 3 or 4 within 1 academic year, which starts in September. And so no matter if you want to come from September or from December or from, next year, you need to apply during the academic year beforehand. So even if you want to come just for the summer, let's say you want to come in summer 2023, so next year, now it's, as we're speaking, it's April 2022. So let's say I want to come next summer. But I'm just thinking about it now. Well, it's too late because the deadline for the whole academic year has already passed. So the deadline is sometimes in March. Again, it might be a little bit different for every country. But yeah, so even if you want to come just for a short period of time, sometimes in the spring or in the summer, you need to plan it in advance. So because yeah.
So if I wanted to apply for, it's too late for me to apply for 2023 summer.
Yes. Yeah.
What
So
about 2023 September?
Yeah, that would be okay. So you could
Okay.
apply. So the applications, I guess, open sometimes next year in February, probably. And then there's a deadline sometimes in March, I believe.
Again, everything is different depending on which representative office you're going
Yeah,
to.
I would think so. But generally it's in February, March, but maybe like the exact date is a little bit different. Yeah. But I would think it's pretty safe to say it's around March. Yeah.
Oh, hey there. Sorry for interrupting this interview, but I just wanted to tell you about this podcast I produce. It's called the Total Beginner Freedive Podcast. And I know a lot of you out there watching this video probably aren't freedivers already. And if you want to learn more about it, this podcast is perfect for you as it answers almost all of the beginner type questions you may have about the sport. And if you already are a freediver, then forward this podcast to your friends and family to help them learn more about this crazy little sport that we do. So go ahead and find it now. It's available on nearly all podcast directories and apps. Now back to the interview. Cool. What are the benefits of the Huayu Scholarship?
So when you get the scholarship, what you get is a stipend. So it's basically just a sum of money. So they don't pay for your tuition, they don't pay for your accommodation, they don't pay for your flights. But every single month, you get a sum of money, which is 25,000 Taiwanese dollars. So I believe it corresponds to like 800 USD or 900, something
900.
like that. Yeah, I think so.
Which is very livable.
Which is very livable. So I live in Taipei, so it's a bit difficult. It depends on your quality of life, like that you're going for, obviously. Like the rentals here, they can really it's a vast range, right? So if you're sharing a flat within like central Taipei with like one bathroom and you're sharing between 5 people, I believe it is possible to find something for like 6,000 even within Taipei. But there, if you want to live by yourself, like it can go up to like 20,000 for a studio without a kitchen. So there's also people who, share a room within a shared flat and they also pay like 14,000. And then the tuition is like, it's between like, so if you pay for a regular class, which is 2 hours per day, it's something between 25 and 29,000 for 3 months. And if you want to do an intensive class which is 3 hours per day, then it's like 10,000 more. So it's like 30 plus for 3 months.
It's not bad.
It's not bad. It's not bad. Yeah. Yeah.
So are you allowed to work part-time?
You're not allowed to work. No. So you get a student visa and you're not allowed to work. Yeah.
That's a bummer. So, but if you had like a sort of remote job part-time, probably could work, right?
Probably right. Like if you're not working in the country, right? I would assume so. Yeah, if you're not getting income from Taiwan, I think that's okay, right?
Yeah. And also if you had a little bit of savings, that probably could,
absolutely.
Like an extra 1,000 or $2 US of savings, that probably could go a long way in making your life a little bit more comfortable in Taiwan, right?
But also we're talking about Taipei now, right? And so it's probably the most expensive place you could possibly choose. And also the school where I'm enrolled at. So it's the MTC Mandarin Training Center at NTNU Shida in Taipei. And I believe it's supposedly the best school for studying Mandarin in the whole of Taiwan. So I would also imagine that the tuition here is probably a bit higher than other places. So if you choose to go, to a smaller town, it's probably going to be a different story. Yeah.
Yeah. Kaohsiung is a lot cheaper. A friend of mine last year, she studied at the Wenzhou University and she got like a room with her own bathroom for 5,000 NT dollars, which is less than 200 US. So
why am I still here?
Can you choose which centers can you choose, like language centers? Is there a choice?
Yes, you can absolutely choose. And there's so many. The list is there is a list, so you can find the list on the official website of the scholarship. There is a whole bunch of schools, and it gives you all the language centers all over Taiwan, which are eligible for the scholarship. So the way it goes is you can choose your school first, and you can apply to the school first, and then once you have an admission letter, it should be even easier to get the scholarship. So that's what I did. And I'm not sure if they're just that efficient or if it was because it was during the pandemic. So Taiwan back then was completely closed. So that's March last year. And so I guess they were also desperate for students, but I literally got the confirmation that they accepted me within like 20 hours. They might have been a little bit desperate because like Taiwan was completely closed. So they were like, "Oh, student, please come."
And
I don't
probably
know
a
if
lot
it's
of
different now.
applicants probably gave up at that point because I
Mm.
think even then, I think during the lockdown last year, they stopped accepting language students, I think.
Well, it was actually interesting because they actually just started accepting students. I think maybe just degree students, but it was like, oh, it's
Yeah.
going to progress further. I applied for the scholarship in March when everything was completely closed, but there was like virtually no COVID here, right? And then in like I think April, May, they started easing the restrictions and they said, oh, like degree students can now come. And then as I was having my interview in May, like this like huge COVID wave was just about to hit, and then everything shut down, and then it was like, okay, it's not gonna happen. So I actually didn't know if if I would be able to come to Taiwan at all. And I started to give up, and then very last minute they decided like mid-August that they would let the students in, and it was very difficult to get here. But I have to say, I was like very surprised. So at the beginning, it was so much bureaucracy, so much confusion because they just opened. Nobody knew what was going on. Like I was constantly on the phone with the tacos, like the three of them, and they were not able to give me
Yeah.
information. But as soon as I got here, and first of all, the school was amazing. The school was like responding to all of my emails, and they had the most information, and they were really trying to help me and get me in the country. And also because the school back then was, so whoever was sponsoring your visa was responsible for like the quarantine and all the paperwork. So they were like really meticulous and super responsive. And then as soon as I got here, like at the airport, everything was organized so well. It was incredible. I was like, I haven't even experienced or seen anything in this country. And I'm already loving it because it was just, yeah, so smooth, and
Yeah.
everybody was super helpful. Yeah.
No, you brought up quarantine, and I think a lot of people are put off by quarantine, and it does add a lot of costs. But just in case, as of now, I
Hmm.
believe I'm seeing a lot of news that Taiwan is dropping its zero COVID policy, and they've shifted into a phase of learning to live with COVID. And I think very soon there's going to be no quarantine. That's just my opinion. Things change all the time. But as Taiwan does things, they do things when they open up. Having experience like in the capital markets, they do things very slowly, right? So they do one
Hmm.
step, see how it goes. If stuff hasn't fallen apart, then they'll go to the next step. So they are in a phase of slowly opening up. They've cut the quarantine times down to 7 days, I think.
Hmm.
So they've loosened a lot of restrictions, and they'll continue to so long as it's not spiraling out of control.
A few words about quarantine. So when I got here, it was just when they opened up, so the measures were pretty strict. So for me back then, that was in November 2021. It was 15 nights in a hotel and 7 nights of self home isolation. But like the rules for the self isolation were just like kind of like they
Nobody
sounded
knows,
strict, but nobody checked on anything.
but nobody
First of
knows
all,
what it is until you get
yeah,
caught. And then I see all the time in the forums on Facebook, like people are like, "What are the
people are
what are the
confused.
guidelines? I'm not sure what I can do on
It's
this."
not sure. Yeah,
Right. And I think it's
yeah,
basically just don't
yeah.
sit in a restaurant for 2 hours with your
Yeah,
mask on, right?
you're not supposed to eat in restaurants, but I don't think honestly that anybody checks. But I think that's like proper not allowed. But then like I was told that we were not able to take public transportation. But then when you check the official website, like it says you should avoid it. And so that I confronted them about it, like because the school kept telling all the schools like kept telling all the students you may not take public transportation. And like if you're like quarantined somewhere, in Taiwan and you have to move like
Yeah.
somewhere else, it's a bit of a cost to take a taxi, right? And especially for all the students, right, which have not even started receiving their scholarship and won't start receiving it for another month at least. And so then I asked them specifically, I was like, on the website, I see something else. And they were like, oh, actually, it's not prohibited, but like, you should
Yeah.
not do it. But
That's
yeah,
all I need to
so
know. That's all I need to know.
right, right.
Not prohibited.
So, but I want to say that so I have my resident visa. If you are a resident in Taiwan, you may apply for a refund if you were put through quarantine and you were not able to work. I applied for that and I got half of the quarantine cost back. So I don't remember how much it was. I think 15,000. Yeah, I got 15,000 NTD back.
Woohoo!
Oh, so that's pretty sweet. Yeah, I mean, I just got here. Yeah, I had to pay upfront for the hotel and everything, of course. But, it's quite nice.
Taiwan's awesome, isn't
Yes,
it?
I must say.
So, what are the requirements for the Huayu Scholarship?
I don't think there's a lot of requirements. Yeah, you just need to explain why you want to come.
Was there like I think I saw one requirement, something like graduating from university within 3 years, but that was the U.S. website, so it may be different for other countries, right?
I think it's probably different for different countries. Yeah. There's a lot of like people like of all ages. So like I had a classmate who's French and he's probably in his like 50s, 60s, and I doubt he just graduated from university.
Okay.
So there's people of all ages. I had a friend from the UK who's like in his 30s and he was just like, he hasn't been studying for many years and he was just doing odd jobs during COVID. So there's people from all over the world with
Yeah.
like of all different ages with very different backgrounds. Some come here because they work with, I don't know, Taiwan or China and they want to improve their Mandarin, so they take a break. I met a mother from Finland, from the UK, who has two children and she just like paused her life because she was like losing her Mandarin because she couldn't get any contact with the language, so she just like took a break and came here for 3 months to study intensively. Yeah. So there's people from all walks of life. So there might be some
Yeah.
requirements like that, but as you say, it's probably, country dependent. So again, you would have to check.
So my belief, I looked at the Southwest U.S., which is like Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, California, and it was to be enrolled as a full-time university student within the last 3 years. So not
Okay.
necessarily graduated, but I guess the conclusion is you're going to have to do, if you're from a different country, you have to do a lot of research,
Yeah.
check out what the requirements are. It's kind of a pain in the ass, but it's
Mhm.
most likely would be worth it if you get through, right?
Yeah, and you can always, I mean, you just go on your tacos office's website and it should be pretty clear. And then if not, you just give them a call. And from my experience, they were quite responsive. They spoke English, or when I contacted the one in Geneva, maybe her English wasn't so great, but she spoke French. So, and they're super helpful. They really try their best. Like even if they don't know, they will try to find out for you. And as I
Mhm.
said, I was in contact with 3 different offices and just I don't know. I feel like Taiwanese people are super welcoming, and they have this scholarship program because they do want to give it to students, right? So they will be happy to answer your questions.
I think one of the other requirements I saw is must not have had any Mandarin classes before or studied Mandarin before. Not for
No,
you.
that's
Okay.
not true. So there's different levels. Yeah, there is. So at least my school, we're doing a course. So it's books that have been published by my school. I'm currently doing book 4. I just started doing book 4 out of 6. I am pretty fluent in Mandarin already, and I'm just like at the second chapter of book 4. Book 5 or after book 6, you can also do like business Chinese, you can do like classical Mandarin, like read Confucius and things like that. So it can get really, really difficult. And so you can come and just start from any level. So that again, maybe maybe because there's so many applicants from the US, I could imagine that they add like further requirements, right? But if you're from a smaller country where there's not that many people interested in studying Mandarin, maybe they do not have any of these requirements. So again, something you
Yeah.
would need to check for yourself. Yeah.
Okay. Can you walk us quickly through your application process once you
Mhm.
found out about the scholarship?
Yeah, firstly I chose the school. So there's, like I said, there's a list of different schools. So first I thought I wanted to be somewhere close by the ocean, and then at the end, um I guess my academic brain just got the better of me and it was like, okay, I hear this is the best school, so let me just do that. Or maybe regret it a little bit. So, do your research. There's so many amazing places. Like you can go to Kaohsiung,
Yeah.
so many awesome places you can go to. I don't want to say I don't like Taipei, but I don't really love living in a big city when I know there's so many other amazing places all over Taiwan where, it's cheaper and the quality of life is probably a bit different, depending on what you like, right?
Yeah, I used to be a big city boy, right? 30 years I've lived in an urban environment, and then I came to this small island. I'm like,
Yeah.
I go to Taipei, I want to leave like in two
Yeah.
hours. I want to get back to this sort of
Yeah.
life. So,
I feel you. I
and we
so feel
just
you.
I just recently went to Tainan, and it was like the first city in Taiwan that I've been to. I didn't want to leave immediately. It's so unbelievably beautiful. It's the one city in Taiwan that the KMT didn't completely destroy because they wanted to get rid
Oh,
of
okay.
all the remnants of Japanese architecture and other colonial, like Dutch colonialism. And the Taiwanese were like, no, no, not today, not here. Take your stuff
Mm-hmm.
elsewhere. And
Mm-hmm.
I believe they defended it, and so that's why it's got such beautiful
Okay.
architecture. Yeah, and it's not
That
that
makes
big.
sense.
Like the city is very, very walkable. So yeah, you should definitely give it a try. But yeah, check out my
Absolutely.
video. Continue on the application process.
Right. So I chose the school and then I applied directly on the school's website. So then I just, checked out the school and then I checked their application procedure. And I guess that's going to depend on the school that you're applying for, but they're just going to, ask you some basic questions about you and your background, your study background, your Mandarin level. But there's no, like, you don't need to prove it in any way. So I was just like, oh, I believe HSK, whatever. And because at that time I only knew HSK and they have a
What's
different
HSK?
system here. HSK, so it's I don't know if you know, like the A1, B1, like the language levels according to the European Union. So
Oh, okay.
mainland China has HSK, and so that's like the levels of Mandarin. It's like according to their Hanban Institute, so like the institute, which is like a government body for like the Chinese language and education and whatever. But so Taiwan has their own, so I'm not really sure about the Taiwanese level, so they're a bit different. They don't use the HSK here, but they will understand it, right? But so they just ask, but then it's not really indicative at all because then you need to do placement tests and things like that after you get to Taiwan. And so yeah, then you have to like send them your CV, I believe, and like explain your motivation. Why do you want to come and study Mandarin? So you just write, like, and it's like within the application form, there's just like a space like that. So it's like 20 hours I got my confirmation of getting the like being admitted to the school. You apply for, so that was a bit like a pain in the neck when I had to apply because I had to send all the papers like in paper format to the actual office by post. So because I was living in Switzerland, I just asked my parents to like print everything out and then send it by post. So, but yeah, so that's a bit of a nuisance that you need to get all the paperwork and then you need to send it by post. But again, this will probably, be different for every country. Like I think the Prague office was just a bit, like that. So yeah, you just get all your materials together. So again, there's going to be like an application form where you fill everything in and your motivation. You can give them the admission letter from the school and then you just wait. And I waited maybe for like 2 months or maybe more, and I had no news. I didn't know, like, you just have to wait. And then one day, I think beginning of May, I just got a random email. I was like, hello, this is someone from, the TECO, and we would like to organize an interview for you. And that was it.
So you made the application in March, or you started the process in March. You heard something from Tico in May, and then
Yeah.
accepted or kind of accepted in
And then
shortly
and
after
then
that?
I guess I was lucky because the guy called me before he like finalized the list, so I knew I was gonna get it. But actually the list of applicants only published sometimes in the beginning of June. And like nobody will notify you, so that's kind of again like a bit inconvenient that you need to check their website if they published it.
Okay, got to
But
bookmark it.
yeah, yeah. But that might also be of interest for people. I don't know if, or I'm not sure actually if like your Tico would publish the quota, like how many spots. I don't think like they will necessarily publish it, but so you can always find the list of people who were awarded the scholarship last year. So you can just check that out to get an idea of how many people got the
Okay.
scholarship in the previous year.
Oh, that's a good tip. March to June, not a huge issue, right? Not a huge delay. So
Yeah, yeah,
not so bad.
yeah. Like it was COVID time, right? So it was like even if I get it, like I still don't know, it's not really decisive because,
Yeah,
there's COVID restrictions, like we don't know if we can come, so,
that was like the worst time, like right in the
yeah.
middle of a lockdown. If you could do it again, would you have gone to Kaohsiung at Wenzhou University and then come to Xiaoluqiu on the weekends and learn freediving?
Oh my God, for sure, for sure. I was honestly like when I went to Xiaoliuqiu, after I got back, I was like asking around like, can I leave this school and change? And then somebody was like, "Oh, I read that you cannot change schools while you're like throughout the duration of your scholarship." And I was like, "Oh, damn." And then I was like, "Can I just study online?" And it's like, "No, like yeah, I don't know." I don't know. I haven't actually asked about the online thing, but I don't think it would be a yes. Actually, and if like when I was a child too, a few people told me it was like, but you know that they have a university in Kaohsiung, right? And they have a language training center. It's like, don't
So
tell me.
yeah,
Like,
that don't get do that anyway.
yeah,
You
yeah.
can't change
No,
things.
yeah. But even Kaohsiung, like I only spent one day there and I was like, what? This is the second biggest city in Taiwan. Like it felt so breezy and green and relaxed and
It's
sunny.
it's weird because Kaohsiung has pockets of awesomeness, right? But then you have like to get from one awesome place to another, you have to go through the actual city, and it's just like
Mm,
not so good. But like the
mm,
art district, the Museum of Modern Art, like they have this
mm.
beautiful like performance center, and then along the
Mhm.
Love River is quite nice there. So,
Very
but in
nice.
between, they should have just raised it. It's just rebuild.
But it doesn't like it just didn't feel I mean I didn't see the whole city, but it didn't really feel like a city, Like even when you go to like Shinju or when you go through Taichung, like there's just high rises, like skyscrapers everywhere. It feels very like city-ish, like like bright lights and everything. And Kaohsiung just felt like, where's all the high rises? Like where's all the craziness of the city? I didn't really see much of that. So it just felt very like breezy and
Yeah,
chill.
it's
Yeah.
not bad. It's quite nice on a nice day.
Not
It's not bad.
telling
Uh,
it to you, I know. Yeah.
you also studied in China. What's the difference between studying Mandarin in Taiwan and studying
Hmm.
in Beijing, right? You were in.
Right, right.
And then tell us your story of
Okay.
like leaving China or not
Okay.
even really leaving China.
So, first of all, Taiwan uses traditional characters. So, it's quite funny because when I meet like locals here and they're like, "Oh, you lived in China?" So, like the simplified Mandarin characters. It's very difficult, isn't it? And I'm like, "What?" The simplified is difficult because for them, right, they're not used to it, so they just can't, sometimes they're like, what is this supposed to mean? Like, but so for me, I told them like for most foreigners, like when we start learning Mandarin, we learn simplified characters. And we think that writing Chinese and understanding Chinese characters is just so difficult. And I was like, why would something be so complicated? And then you move to Taiwan and you're like, what? Like it's even more difficult? Like why? Just why? So it's especially if you already like have some like if you've never been introduced to Chinese characters, like you're just gonna think it's difficult no matter what. And it's gonna be like, okay, this is what it is. But like if you're already used to the simplified Chinese characters, and then you come here, like it's just a bit of a nuisance to like have to sort of relearn the things. And it's a bit confusing, but it's not as difficult as you initially think it would be. But yeah, it's just a bit of an inconvenience, I would say. So that's the main difference, I would say. And then obviously like the accent is very different. It's funny because I lived in Beijing and they like roll their R's a lot, and it's kind of fun.
Not a big fan of that, honestly. Not a
Oh,
big
I
fan.
love it. I love it. It's so much fun. It's so much fun. So when I first came to Taiwan, I was like, wow, people sound so polite and so like gentle and soft, like even like effeminate a little, effeminate, yeah, like compared to the Beijing accent, which is like "Rah, rah, rah," like very like hardcore, like
It's rough.
masculine, rough, yeah, like and now that I'm used to the Taiwanese accent, like I was just on the phone with somebody from Beijing and I was like, why is this person so rude to me? Like he's like a service person, like I'm paying him for a service. Like why is he like yelling at me like it's like this da, 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 da. And I was like, he's so rude. But like then I was like, no, he's not rude. He's just a Beijinger and they just sound like that. And it's, you know, I used to think it was really fun, but now that I'm not used to it, it's like, yeah, it sounds very different.
What about learning it wise? Like, where'd you go in Beijing?
I wasn't really learning Mandarin that much when I was living in Beijing, to be
Oh, you're doing your
honest.
master's, right?
I was doing my master's, which was
Okay.
an English language degree. So I took 2 semesters of Mandarin while I was there. When one was there and one was online, but it was really a bit. It wasn't the best because the focus just really wasn't on the Mandarin instruction. So it was a very different approach. I wasn't in a proper like Mandarin learning program in China, so I can't compare. So whereas now, like it's very thorough, it's like very like meticulously learning every single word, you know, like everything you read in a given text, like you want to learn and understand and be able to like get into your active vocabulary and like, you know, really like internalize it, like absorb it and like make it part of like, you know, your active speaking and writing. And it's very holistic, like you're really acquiring the language. Whereas in Beijing, when I was doing this at the university, it was like very passive. It was like, did we understand this? Like, did we learn the grammar points of this lesson? Okay, moving on.
Yeah, I had so like you, I studied Mandarin in Shanghai first in 1995. I was like, great, I don't want to learn this characters. Simplified's great, right? And then I come here for work. Honestly, I didn't find any issue. It's just like you learn it as you go. Now I can't read simplified now. Learning Mandarin in China, I felt well, students wise, we were segregated, kind of segregated in like our own dorms, and then we just socialized with each other. And I think the opportunity to get to know locals, it was not as big or as much. Maybe also culturally, there's such a big divide between Chinese and China and American or American Chinese, even, right? And so I think culturally, it's in Taiwan is a little more similar to Western culture, a little bit more. And so, and there's also an interest and fascination to get to know you that I don't really. In China, it felt like you were like a zoo animal, right?
Mm.
That they just wanted to look at you or foreigners and not really get to know you. Whereas here, it's like they're really interested in getting to know you and your and you and your culture, right? So I don't know if you had the same experience. So just tell us about your
Yeah.
the end of your studies in China.
I was living in Beijing before COVID, and in the beginning of January 2020, I left for a short holiday for a month during the Chinese New Year. So I packed a tiny carry-on suitcase. I put like my free swimsuits in it and my like some trekking gear for trekking in the jungle in Indonesia. And I left in the middle of the night, right? So I left like a huge mess in my room with like stuff all over the floor. And then I'm in Bali like doing this retreat and like yeah, stuff is starting to happen. And like all of my friends from Europe, my family are just hearing news from China and they're like, what is going on in China? Like I hear 30 million people are in lockdown. And I'm like at this retreat and I'm like, you know, like have my phone turned off for like 3 days straight. And then I just like turn on my phone and I'm just like, I'm sorry. I'm on holidays. I'm not going back to China for another 3 or 4 weeks. Like, I don't care. Like, leave me alone. Like, this is just something like going on in, you know, like I was like, yes, I know it sounds crazy, like 30 million people, but that's like one city in China, right? So like,
Yeah.
let's just put that in perspective. And they were like, okay, okay. And then my parents think it's the end of the world. They're like, what are you gonna do? Like all your stuff is there. And I was just like, everybody just relax. And then time goes by, right? And then my school is like, okay, like please like promise to us right now that you're not gonna go and come back to campus. Like you must promise. And if you like breach this rule, it's going to have academic consequences. Like, and I was like, what does that mean? Like, are you gonna like, kick me out of school because I want to come back to school? Like, and so then it was like, okay, well, I can't come back to China. And so then I had to leave Indonesia. So I was like, well, I think I'm just gonna go to Vietnam and like stay there for 30 days on my 30-day visa. And like then I'll be close to China and I can come back. And at the end, like I was like, oh, maybe it's gonna take a bit longer. So at the end, I thought like, okay, I'm just gonna go back to Europe and see my family and see some friends for like a month or two, like, and
you're
then I'll
still
come
paying
back.
rent at your place, right?
So I was staying on campus, and it was a whole thing because they like couldn't make up their mind. And first they made us pay for the whole term, and then only like retrospectively they decided they would like not charge us, and then they said they would refund the money, but only when we come back they would refund it in person. And we were like, when's that gonna happen, right? And so then like 2 years later, right, like fast forward, I never made it back to China. It was really heartbreaking for me because I really fell in love with the life I had in China. I really enjoyed living there. I had a great time. I really appreciated China for, the opportunities it gave me. And, I thought it was a temporary thing. I kept saying, I live in China in theory, but in practice, I'm here right now, but I live in China. All my stuff is there. It's waiting there for me. Like I literally, all of my stuff was there. My ID, like my parents' house keys, my iPad, all of my clothes, all of my books. And it just wasn't happening. And then you keep waiting and waiting and waiting and you have no closure. So that was kind of hard. And then, at some point you just have to accept it. And then, so my stuff was stored in my dorm because they have separate dorms for international students. They're like, a bit more comfortable. And I guess the price range is a bit different because Chinese students, even so the university I was at, it's like the Harvard of China, but still like 4 to 6 people or maybe 4 to 8 people share.
Yeah. Their bunk beds stacked 3 high.
Yeah.
And
that's the best university in
yeah.
China, mind you. Like there's universities which have like 12 bunk beds in a dorm. So, but me, like I had my own room and I was just like sharing like my bathroom and my little kitchen with one other person. So it's quite comfortable. And then at the end, they decided they wouldn't make us pay. Yeah, like I said. So my stuff, so they couldn't use the dorms because there were no international students. So they would just keep them closed with like the very few international students that were like remained on campus. And then when I was supposed to graduate, like I finally had to like vacate the room and give it over. So that was last August. And
so you did online stuff.
Yeah.
And graduate. Okay.
Yeah. So
That's
yeah,
cool.
everything online, which was a bit sad, but at least I could, I was lucky enough to, like, China is very, like, it's quite advanced with all the technology and cloud software and things like that. And so that was at least, quite good. Like it could have been better. It could have been much better. And it wasn't amazing to have classes from 3 to 5 in the morning. But, like they tried, like I was able to complete, my requirements, like the degree requirements. It wasn't always smooth, but it happened. Like I wasn't just left without nothing. So, and fast forward 2 years and 3 months later, I literally just got all of my stuff from China yesterday. So yeah, it's like I found, a lost piece of my soul, like all these clothes, like, oh, I have all these clothes I can wear.
And your iPad.
Yeah. It's a bit outdated now. I don't think it's gonna be much use, but
cool. So what are you gonna do once you finish up your language program in Taipei?
That's a very good question. So to be honest, I am really enjoying Taiwan. And for now, I just don't really see a reason to leave. Like the world is crazy. So I was living in Europe before coming here. People, were worried, and I'm sure the US, and I think the US like might be even worse. Like from what I've heard from some Americans, that they just did not enjoy living in the US before, like during the pandemic. Just people are scared, people are worried, people are very opinionated, like everything has become so political. And now, like in Europe, there's no like COVID has sort of calmed down, but now there's like a war going on, right? And people are just not feeling very reassured. And I feel like here in Taiwan, I feel kind of far away from all that
Yeah,
worrying.
I was in the U.S. when everything on the COVID started coming down. I
Mhm.
spent like the first 8 months of it there, and so it was also during the election, and I was just angry every day
Right,
and confused or whatever. It just
right.
so coming to Taiwan and living in this ignorant bliss
Mhm.
was amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. So right now people are starting to worry a little bit about the whole COVID thing. So people are a bit, so I don't want to like be like too negative or critical or whatever, but from my point of view, people may be a little bit like paranoid about the whole COVID thing because they haven't really experienced it here at all. So they're just really worried that like it's super deadly and it's just the worst thing on planet Earth.
I think some people, just a portion of the people, but I've also met people, and they're like, it's inevitable. Let's just deal with this now. This is the
Okay.
right time to do it.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, interesting. Well, old people, for example, are very worried. Well, I don't know. Depends. Like there's also a lot of old people who just refuse to wear the masks and then the young people like criticize them. It's like, "Oh, like you're the one who's most at risk." So there's a lot of strong opinions for sure, but I feel like what I really enjoy, what I love here is that even though like people tend to be quite obedient, so if the government says like you don't like we're not going to force you to get vaccinated, but you should. So even though most people are going to do it, if it's not a rule that you have to do it, so if you choose not to do it, for example, like people are not going to like get overly, opinionated or political and like say that you're not your friends anymore. Whereas in Europe, I experienced like people having different opinions about the vaccination. Like literally the other person, if they didn't share their opinion, they would like turn around and walk away and say like,
Or they
we're
act
not
like if you're not vaccinated, that you're literally they look at you like, you're going to murder people? Well, that's not really the case, is it?
insane. And then the other way around, like in Europe, like, people like who were anti-vax or not even like necessarily anti-vax, they just didn't want to get it because, they had their own reasons. Like they were skeptical. They were like, I'm gonna wait and
Yeah.
see. And then like, yeah, like just both sides, they would just, just so political. And like Europe has not traditionally been so polarized. It was like a very American thing. But over this, I feel like even the whole of Europe just got so polarized and it was just so unpleasant. And here, I feel like, people are not going to judge you. They're just going to be like, okay, like, just as long as, everything's fine. Like, like, if the government didn't say, we have to do it this way, then like yeah, like you have obviously your right to choose. So it feels very nice. Like it feels like people are quite respectful of other people's choices and they're very careful. Like people are very careful on their own, sort of like, yeah, like out of their own volition, not because the government is forcing them to.
Yeah, there wasn't a huge, well, just it wasn't polarized and people was in it together. So that's like the big difference. And if you don't think you qualify for the Huayu Scholarship, with a little bit of research, you can find some alternative scholarships for degrees like a bachelor's degree or master's degree. And I recently met somebody who had a doctorate scholarship, which basically paid for his accommodations as well as school fees. There's even a gold card program for professionals in 10 industries like science and technology, finance, economics, architecture, education, sports, law. There's even a YouTuber with 1 million subscribers who was approved under the culture and arts field. And basically with the gold card, it's an open work permit with a number of other benefits like tax breaks and expedited path to permanent residency. Click the link in the description to read more about the gold card program. And that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.